second goal for England. Again, it's still Scots. England have the breakthrough. And here is Jill Scott. Hello, Scott. And there is the second goal. Jill Scott with a header, England have a second. It's Scott who's applied the finish. Beautifully crafted. Jill Scott takes the celebration.
I don't even know. Thank you. Usually you just see us once when I do my talk, so today's been a little bit different. But yeah, thanks for a great day so far, and I just wanted to kind of share my story with you all. So I've been told I've got about 35, 40 minutes, so hopefully I can entertain you for a bit. So yeah, it's not the splash you remember, it's definitely the dive. So that's the title of my presentation. Just to give you a little bit of an insight, played for England for 16 years, played in 4 World Cups, 4 European Championships, 2 Olympics, 161 caps, second most capped England player, rightfully so, behind Farrell Williams, who is an absolute legend. Played my career at Sunderland, Everton, Manchester City, with a couple of loan spells in there when I wasn't wanted anymore. So yeah, it's been a great career. I've been retired now for 2 years. I was so lucky throughout my career that I didn't really pick up an injury. My knee is absolutely knackered now, but I'll take that because obviously I got to represent my country so many times, which means so much to us. So yeah, I'm going to go back to this title. I might need one of these. So yeah, this is little Jill, although I probably wasn't ever that little. I was probably quite tall. And then there is a picture on the end, which is me with the European trophy. So I just want to take you through the journey a bit. So I'm going to talk about the start, finding your formula, emotional intelligence, perfect day, and then the end with a big question mark. So yeah, the start. I didn't pick these pictures, by the way. So number 1, it's a boys' game. So I go back to when I was around 5 years old. People always say it was, when did you decide to play football? And it sounds like the cheesiest answer ever, but I never feel like I made a decision to play football. I felt like football chose me because my grandma actually says, she's 90 now, so I don't know how much sense she's talking, but she reckons on my christening day, my legs were going like this, and she went, she's going to be a footballer, but I think she's just trying to claim it a little bit. So yeah, 5 years old, playing football in the schoolyard, absolutely loved it, loved kind of getting scraped knees, getting stuck in. I wasn't probably a very observant child. I think it took us about 2 months to realise that I was the only girl in the whole school that was playing football. And if I'm being completely honest, it was really, really difficult. I think when people talk about the words resilience and determination, I think young Jill, who was 5, 6 years old, I think them qualities were kind of building inside of her without her even knowing. So imagine 8, 9 years old. I'm sure there's some people in this room the same age as me. We weren't from the days where your family had 4 cars, you got lifts to football. Sometimes I would get taken to football by other parents or by your coach. And basically I'd be playing, I'd nutmeg one of the boys, I'd do a skill. And to be fair, the kids were quite good with us because they could see I could play a little bit. They wanted us on the team. But the parents would be like, because I'd nutmegged their precious son, it was like, smash that girl, break her legs. And I used to come off the pitch in tears so many times. I bumped into one of my old coaches the other day, and he was telling us about how he had to wipe so many tears from my face. But on a Tuesday, I still always picked my football boots up for training. There was nothing that was going to stop us doing the thing that I loved the most, the thing that I'd fell in love with from such a young age. My first day of senior school, this isn't all a sob story, by the way, but first day of senior school, it's quite a daunting day, isn't it? You're making new friends, you're entering a class, you don't really know anyone. First day, a boy calls us a name for playing football. I chase after him because I was determined that I would stick up for myself, fight for myself. The kid trips us over. I smash my arm in 3 places. I seen him over Christmas at the pub in Sunderland. I really wanted to 2-foot him, but I stopped myself. But these were the times that I feel like I went through just because I love playing football. So yeah, 4 gears. That kind of talks about I went from playing for kind of a local boys team, then I got told I couldn't play for the boys team anymore, and then I found a girls team, went on to play for Sunderland, and then I made my debut for Everton when I was about 18 years old. So 4 gears represents my car I had, Peugeot 106, 176 miles from Sunderland to Liverpool. I used to do the journey 3 times a week. I used to get the last training slot, 8 till 10, after the men had played, after the academy boys had played, 8 till 10 p.m. Then I used to head back up the motorway, get in 2 o'clock in the morning, was coaching up in Sunderland, and then do it all again the next day. So it was difficult, but I absolutely loved it. I was playing football with my mates. I just absolutely loved it. So next one is England debut. So I made my England debut when I was 19 years old. I kind of describe it as, if anyone's ever played FIFA or the kids play FIFA, it was like one of them where you can put yourself in the game. So I enter the pitch, I'm with Kelly Smith, Rachel Yankee, all my heroes, and I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing on this pitch? But I think I missed an absolute sitter as well, missed a one-on-one. But it was such a proud day for me. There was nothing that I wanted more than representing my country at the thing that I loved. So yeah, I think I've got Sponsor Me there because it was kind of at a time, we weren't full-time at this point, we were probably like part-time, and I picked up a sponsorship deal. I was so excited about this sponsorship deal. They're like, we're going to give you football boots and everything. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, because I think my mum had been getting them on the catalogue, you know, when you pay like £1.44 a week for like 260 weeks. So yeah, got this sponsorship deal. It was called Lioness, used to wear the boots and everything. And it was only 2 years later, I realised it was a random guy called Simon that had just put his name backwards on a pair of boots. But I appreciated it. So yeah, challenging mentality. I know we've spoke a little bit about this today. I've learned so much today. I think you're all very intelligent people, and it's made us realise a lot. I think people sometimes think, how can you go and speak about sport when people are talking about business? But I think there's so many crossovers. People are so driven in their fields, are always wanting to make things better. And I suppose that's what it's always been like with sport. There's always good times, there's always bad times. But it's how you kind of get yourself through the bad times to experience them great times, I suppose. So make your own path was probably, whenever you're in a job, you kind of look and think, right, who's in this field, what they're doing, right, I want to be like them, and looking all the time. I suppose for me, I never had that visual of females playing football. So my heroes growing up, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, David Beckham, them were the players that I looked up to, because I couldn't see females really doing it. So in terms of having a visual, I didn't. And I remember my mum saying when I was younger, what do you want to do when you're older? I said, I want to be a footballer. And she probably thought, that doesn't even exist. But I had 2 older siblings, they were doing quite well. Probably thought, just let Jill crack on with this dream that doesn't exist. So I suppose in a way, I did make my own path in that sense. I am somebody that only thinks to the next day. I don't really set long-term targets, long-term goals. And I think that probably comes from childhood, because I couldn't see this long-term goal or this long-term target. So I always had this mentality that, you know what, Jill, if you work as hard as you can today and do everything you can, as long as you can look in the mirror tonight, and yeah, you might not get that trial, you might not make the team, but you can look at yourself and think, you know what, you did everything you could today, Jill, to be better than you were yesterday and be better for tomorrow. I was always kind of at peace with that. So that's a mentality that's kind of always stuck with me, really. No regrets, I think that kind of speaks for itself, and live in uncomfortable spaces. So if I'm being honest today, first time presenting really like that, usually I'd come, rock up, do my presentation. I do talk to people. But today was a bit uncomfortable for me, but I think you never grow if you stay inside your comfort zone. I think pushing yourself all the time, being comfortable with being uncomfortable so that you can be better, you can analyze what you've done, and then always try and be better the next day. So I remember COVID times, head into a field. It was full of dog poo. And basically we just had a program of what we had to do. And I remember standing there, it was pouring down with rain, there's no one on this field. And I was like, you know what, I could just go home, crack open a Copperberg or something like that and just chill in the garden. But I was like, if I don't do this session today, someone somewhere else will do this session and they'll take over us. So I always made sure that I didn't cut any corners, because I think if you don't cut any corners, you don't get the regrets. So that's definitely something that when I look back at COVID times, there was so many times I thought, oh, just go back home, Jill. It's horrible weather, but I always made sure I did the session. So I think challenger mentality is something that, yeah, you kind of want to challenge others, but I think challenging yourself to be the best that you can be. Nobody knows the potential, so why not find out what it is? And I've had managers in the past that's kind of put a bit of a ceiling on us. So I'll stand here and say I was a very average footballer, but I worked so hard. And I always thought that this ceiling was the highest I could go. And then I was introduced to a coach and he kind of said to us, you know what, you do work hard, but you're actually okay technical. I want to build this team around you. And by just having that little bit of belief inside of us, I think it made us smash through that ceiling. And sometimes you need to forget about the ceiling, just think whatever you're going to go to, you can do it. So yeah, finding your formula. This is probably one of my favorite ones. And I've heard a few people talk about it today in kind of different scenarios, but finding your formula was for me kind of not looking left and not looking right. So when you're in a team full of people, I'll use England captain at the time, Steph Houghton. So we played together when we were 9 years old. Then we played together when we were at Manchester City for 8 years. Played at England together for about 15 years. So we kind of always had a similar journey. But in terms of how we were as people and what we did, we couldn't have been any further from each other. I could still tell you what she has for our pre-match meal: chicken, boiled potatoes and broccoli. I would probably just eat whatever was there on the day. Every time we played a game, she'd sit, she'd analyse everything. She'd have a full massage on a Saturday. I'd probably just go to the cinema and chill. But my point is with that is you can have the same target as someone in your team, but you can find your own way to get there. And I always think if I try to be like Steph or she tried to be like me, we wouldn't have had the journey we had because it didn't work for me. Now, finding your own formula, with it comes a lot of accountability. So however I performed on a Sunday, if I had a bad game, which did happen quite a lot, I would always look back on my week and be like, Jill, should you have gone to Nando's on Tuesday? Friday, could you have gone to bed a little bit earlier? I was constantly trying to evaluate what I could have done better to have that performance on a Sunday. And with that also comes, if I had a good game, right, why did the week go well? And you'll know yourself in business. Sometimes you think I did everything right and it was just a bad day at the office. But I think finding your formula is something that is so important. And when you're part of a team that really believe in you and really believe in that goal, you also don't judge others. So it wasn't a case of, oh, Jill's off to the cinema on Saturday. They just recognise that that's what I needed in that time. And that's what I love about managing people. I think you have to try and get the most out of each individual, and you can't treat everybody the same. I always say if you go and put petrol in all the cars in a car park, only about 33% of them would move, because some are diesel, some are electric. You've got to work out what's going to get the best performance out of each individual. So yeah, that's always something that I learned along the way, but I feel like I got my formula and I had people around us that understood it and were willing to help me do that to kind of maximize my performance. So positive mindset. I've always been someone that's really positive. I suppose in my line of work, it was always, what's the worst that can happen today? So Sunday, heading out for an FA Cup final. What's the worst thing that can happen? Right, you're going to get beat in this game. And in that moment, it feels like the end of the world. But I kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm still going to go home. My family is still going to be there. And I think that was always going to be the main thing for me. So I always try and have that positive mindset that there's things going on in the world that are so much worse. But sometimes when you're in an environment, you're trying to reach targets, it feels like your world comes crashing down when you kind of don't make them. So I think that's kind of where the positive mindset come from. And I think in the England team, I probably held on for an extra year just to probably be that person that kept the team going and was kind of always trying to be positive for the younger girls as well. I think they were actually so happy when I retired, because I used to be the one at lunchtime. I was like, let's get off our phones, come on, tell us something about yourself. Have you got a brother? Have you got a sister? And they're thinking, oh God, I just want to scroll through TikTok for an hour. So I think when I announced I was retiring, I think they were pretty happy, to be honest. So your why, this is a big one for me, because I think sometimes we'll get so caught up in, as I said before, targets, day-to-day life. And sometimes I think we have to just stop and think, why do we do what we do? And for me, it was always kind of to make my family proud, but also not to let myself down as well. I used to think back to little Jill and think about the journey that she'd been through, and I really wanted to complete the journey for her. And I think when you look at a group of people and you think about your why, we did this actually before, I think it was like 2017 Euros. And I remember one of the girls turned around and said, my why is I want to make money. If we progress through the rounds, we'll get a bonus. And I remember everyone going, oh my God, she said the money. But I'm like, if that's her why, you can't change somebody's why. And if that's what's going to motivate them to do well that day, to be better for the team, who cares what your why is? So there was one girl who had, I think she had 3 kids at the time. She did this really good story about her boys, how she was making them proud. And I actually remember, this isn't a lie just for the presentation, but we were in a bronze medal match in the World Cup, and I think we were 33 minutes in. I'd made this recovery run from right wing to right back. I was absolutely knackered. We played 7 games already. And I looked at the clock and I was like, oh my God, it's 33 minutes. How are we going to get through this game? And I remember looking at her and I was like, you know what? I'm going to run for your kids today, because I knew how much she wanted to win that medal. So sometimes by sharing that story, it just kind of connects you a little bit more to the person next to you. And I'm such a big believer in that. I think we can go into work every day, we can go into a team every day, and we can like sometimes not give to the environment because you're so caught up in what you're doing. But if you can get to know someone just a little bit better, I always think you should be able to sit next to somebody at work and have a conversation that isn't about like work or about football. Get to know them on a different level, because in them moments where things matter, that can be what the difference is. And one story, we had a girl that was coming into the team, and somebody said to us, they were like, oh, she's so moody, her, isn't she? She was like, she's like an energy zapper. She's taking all the energy out of the group. And I was like, has anyone ever actually like sat down, spoke to her? And I remember doing it one day, and she was actually caring for a family member. She was up in the middle of the night. She was getting up early. She was dragging herself to football. And I think sometimes if you find out about people's stories, sometimes the actions are justified. Don't get us wrong, I meet a lot of people where I'm like, yeah, you're just an idiot, but you just have to accept that. So resilience, high and low. When I said about building resilience and determination from a young age, I think through experiences, you do that. And I think one thing for me was, whenever we were going for tournaments or going for gold medals, going for league titles, or we won a big game, I try to keep myself on this kind of even level, because I always thought if I get too high, if then there's a big low moment, I'm just going to come crashing down. So I kind of like did this, and it was difficult. You get emotional after a game, but then soon your logical brain kicks in and you think, you know what, it's not the end of the day. It's going to be another game next week, and let's just affect what we can affect. So that was something for me that I learned. And I think I tried to pass that on to the team. Then we won the FA Cup with Manchester City. We had like an 18-year-old goalkeeper, and she was so like, she was walking around, she was smiling with the trophy, but she wasn't very happy. And I was like, we've just won the FA Cup. I'm like, you're 18 years old. This does not happen every day. Drink the champagne, do whatever. And she went, well, you told us not to get too high. I was like, not in this moment. I was like, you can do what you want. So it is obviously finding that balance. Using data to improve performance. So yeah, obviously I'm speaking about this slide because of us talking about data today. But if I'm being completely honest, when data started coming into the game, I was a bit like a dinosaur, really. I had this very closed mindset to it. I was still somebody who did my own routine, did my stretches, and then suddenly I've got sports scientists telling us I've got to wear this little pack every single day in kind of the back of your sports bra. It's going to tell us how much like mileage you're covering in games and stuff like that. And I would question it all the time. Sports scientists I get on so well with away from work, but when it come to football, we just clash so bad. And I go, well, why do I have to wear this thing every single day? Like, because after training, we need to see you've worked hard. And I was like, I know I've worked hard because I'm absolutely knackered. But in all fairness to them, it just kind of took us to the next level of the game because they could see how much running we'd done. If we'd had 3 games that week, I'd usually have covered about 33K, I think it was, about 11K a game. So when it came to a Monday, they would then put you on a recovery session. You might have someone who only played 1 game, so they would then do a top-up session. And it just kind of made them, obviously the men's game's been a lot further on than the women's for a long time. So I suppose appreciating these things coming into the game was a big thing. Nutrition, we got everything. We went to a tournament once and we had to literally weigh every bit of food that we ate. It was an absolute nightmare. And if you're having a sneaky bar of Cadbury's in your room on the night, you didn't want to go down and weigh that, especially if it was one of them family-sized ones. So the nutrition side, we did all that because I had to work out how much you took in and how much fuel kind of went out of your body, and everybody was different. And I remember one tournament, we all came back that we were so under-fueled. So getting to know that just made everybody increased their food, got more energy, which then has a knock-on effect. If you're obviously trying to last 7 games, maybe that's why I died in the 33rd minute of that Germany game. I should have probably ate another chicken breast or something, but it definitely did start to help us with keeping up with the demands of the game. Sleep rings, that was something else where data helped to improve performance. We had to wear a data ring, and basically it would tell you kind of how many hours you slept for. If anybody ever tries one of these, they're absolutely like the mad, because I'm actually a really good sleeper, and I'd go to sleep, say, I don't know, 10 till 7, so 9 hours sleep, and I'd go and hand this ring in and they'd be like, you were only asleep for 6 hours. And I was like, well, where the hell did I go? Like, it kind of really like measures like your deep sleep and stuff like that. So all of these things were kind of getting us from part-time footballers to professional athletes. And when I reflect now, kind of that closed mindset that I had in the beginning, this has been so kind of changing for the women's game. And when I look at the Euros, which I will speak about, that was definitely one of the reasons in us lifting that trophy, kind of the introduction of data and what it can do for you. And then I think recovery I've already touched on. So on a Monday after a game on a Sunday, we used to have to do this run. It was just like a 5-minute run. It was quite easy. And I'd be like, why are we doing this? Waste of time. But if you're not recovered, you might do that run and your heart rate might be at like 150. So they can tell you're tired. And yeah, so it was incredible really. And as I say, so appreciative of it all now, because this is definitely what's taken us to the next level. Emotional intelligence. So this is something I think being part of a team, and as you know, working in a team in kind of your fields, I think I've spoke about conversation art, and I think speaking about kind of different managers and people who I feel really managed us well as a group, I think kind of that genuine part of conversation. I've had managers, and I will speak about Serena Wiegmann, who we won the Euros with, but managers who were just genuine. I know it must be the worst thing. I've never been a manager or a leader or a team leader, but to have them difficult conversations must be the toughest thing. But I think if you don't just have them, you're going to put them off, and then they're going to be even worse further down the line. So the managers who would just kind of tell us straight, everything in black and white, I think them were the ones that I kind of respected more. And when you crossed the white line, you were playing for them, you were in work mode, but then also when you were kind of the other side of the pitch, I think them managers who could talk to you about family and stuff like that, I think them were the things that made the difference. So make them need you probably comes from my last few years at Manchester City. So we got a new manager. We clashed a little bit. I won't go into too much detail, but we did clash a little bit. And I think I kind of came up with this motto where I was like, he doesn't want to play me. You kind of get a feeling for it, don't you? You might be in work and you think, oh, they're kind of trying to edge us out a little bit. And sometimes you can always blame it on the manager and go, oh, you know what, they're just edging us out, like they don't want us. And I was like, instead of making them want me, I'm going to make them need me. So I try to get fitter, try to work on my game so that if there was ever a moment where he was like, you know what, we need some legs in the middle of the pitch, I knew that I'd worked so hard that he couldn't ignore us. And then it probably got to the point where I was fully ignored. I did try, but then it probably got to the point where I was ignored. And then I kind of had this motto where I was like, you're not a tree, you can move if you want. And I ended up going out on loan. So before the Euros, I wasn't playing. So if you imagine 10 international tournaments, never got a gold medal. I knew this was my last chance when the Euros came round. And I remember Serena speaking to us and she said, Jill, if you're not playing this season, I can't take you to the Euros. So I was like, right, I'm going to have to leave my comfort zone. I'd been at Man City for 8 years, knew everybody, you know the staff. It's work kind of, not that it becomes easy, but I think if you're comfortable within your work, it just makes everything a little bit better. So I had to step out. I was 35, had to go make new friends, like young Jill at senior school. Nobody smashed my arm though, which was a bonus. Went on loan to Aston Villa and I got the game time that I needed in order to then make the Euros squad. Now, when you get selected for a tournament, you have a lot of managers. So 10 tournaments, usually it's an email. You're going to this tournament or you're not. Sometimes it's a phone call. And for the first time, and you're so nervous, you're just waiting for your phone to ring and then they'll just answer and they'll go, sorry, you're not going to the World Cup. And then that's it. And your dream's completely over. But with Serena, the first thing that I noticed that she did, I don't know if you're familiar with St. George's Park, it's the England training centre. So we'd been there was 28 of us, and we'd been there for 3 weeks training all together. And then one day we had like a game like between ourselves, and she turned around and she said, right, so I'm going to be sending 5 of you home, the rest of you are going to go to the Euros. And we were like, what? And we walked out of training and there was just 5 cars waiting outside. I'm laughing, but it's like, you know, one of them where you want to cry. So there's just 5 cars and she goes, you'll get a text. It's like Love Island, isn't it? You'll get a text. And then we'll bring you up to a room and we'll just tell you if it's kind of a yes or a no. So I think I drank about 6 flat white coffees. I went in like shaking. Unfortunately, I got a yes, but I also knew at the same time there was going to be 5 of my teammates that were going home. And I suppose why I tell you that is just kind of the ruthlessness of it. And I think the good thing about Serena is that she knew what she needed to make our team win. And she was like, she kind of seen it as just black and white. I've got 28 players. I need to take 23. I need to tell them to the face. And I really respected that because in the past, as I say, text, email, I think if you can do it face to face, not that you take it any better in the moment, but I know having spoken to them girls on reflection, they do say that they kind of accepted that. So that was the start of me being like, yeah, Serena's definitely not going to take any SHIT. So yeah, foundations cracks. I did mention this briefly before when the speakers were speaking and they said about kind of, if somebody you can't just have instant success. Well, you can, but then do you have kind of longevity in success? I don't know if you do. And I think for me, it was always about kind of making sure you do everything right to build these strong foundations like a house. And I've had players in the past where managers would come in, they just loved the player and they just put them up there. They were like, right, you're the star player, blah, 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 like everything's about you. But then I always think if somebody can put you up there, they can also take you back down. So I think my career, I'd always like to look back on it and think, you know what, I didn't cut any corners. No manager ever put us up there unless I kind of built them foundations and did it right. And I kind of always look at a house and think, if you don't do that, if you don't have them strong foundations, you can just fall through the cracks. So that was definitely something. It's probably the thing I'm most proudest of, really. Kind of building your own house, not literally, but although that would be lovely. Right, perfect day. So I think we're nearly at the end. But yeah, perfect day. So yeah, I can't really put that moment into words, really. Heading to Wembley, Euros final, as I said before, all them failed tournaments before. I knew this was going to be my last one. I didn't speak to anybody about it, but I just knew. I remember being in the tournament. The biggest change with this tournament was that I feel like I was chatting to a lady before, and obviously being in male-dominated environments and playing in kind of a man's world and stuff like that. And don't get us wrong, I don't say that because I'm not like females should be doing everything, but I think that equal opportunity piece is so important. And there's so many guys that I've worked with. I'm so lucky to be working with some great guys at the minute who are kind of really good allies for the female game and really help. So I'm not saying it for that reason, but I think it was so difficult in the beginning. And every time I went to a tournament, we had to sit there and we had to tell our sob story. I was the only girl playing with the boys. But for the first time this tournament, I felt like they respected us as football players, the media, the fans. They really got behind the team. It wasn't the women's football team. It was, this is a team that's going to the Euros, representing England since 1966. We've never brought it home. And I just felt like for the first time, we didn't have to waste any energy on anything else. It was like we can just concentrate on doing what we want to do, play football. So first day I remember, I went for a walk with Leah Williamson, who's the Arsenal and England captain. And we walked into a shop. She's on billboards, she's on the Pepsi can, she's on the Doritos packets. I'm thinking, where the hell am I? But no, I got it. But yeah, she was everywhere. And I was like, wow, like this tournament is going to be different. So I think from that moment to the final, I can never put that final into words because, as I say, I didn't tell anybody I was retiring. It was never about me. But to get that kind of perfect moment at the end, I think my face says it all, really. We got the bronze medal in the World Cup in 2015, and I go around schools and I do a talk, and if the light's shining on the medal, it looks gold, and the kids go, "Have you got a gold medal for England?" And I was like, yeah. But now I don't have to lie because I do have a gold medal for England, but I did lie for quite a bit. But yeah, I think when I look back on the success of that tournament, everyone goes, well, why that tournament? Why did you win? And I think people think I'm going to bring up this algebra and this formula for success. I don't think there is a formula for success. I suppose you can read as many books as you want. I've read Pep's book, I've read Sir Alex Ferguson's book, and you can take little bits, but you have to work out what works best for the players and your team and what you've got. If everybody went and copied Pep, I still don't think they'd win because it's Pep, and in his head, he's a genius in his own mind. So I think what Serena did so well was there was just no grey areas throughout the team. So even going into this tournament, I think I'd probably featured in, I think I'd only started one game. Yeah, I think I'd started one game for her, and we've been playing for like a year. I was coming on a sub, and she even pulled us into a meeting and said, "Jill, you're probably not going to start much this tournament." And I remember thinking, well, I kind of already guessed that, but I guess she just wanted to have that conversation so that you knew where you stood. And I think I really appreciated that because from that moment on, I knew what my role was. She did say to us, she was like, if we're ever protecting a lead, I'm going to put you on, shut up shop, use your experience. I remember we were beating Norway, went 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 6-0. I'm like, are we protecting a lead yet? I think it even got to 8-0 and I eventually got 10 minutes. But she stuck to our word, which was good. But I did feel appreciated. She told us what I brought to the squad, and I did really feel appreciated. So I suppose when I look back on that gold medal, I remember putting it around my neck, and I did one last box-to-box run. I've got a coffee shop in Manchester which is called Box to Box for that reason. Although at the minute I probably couldn't do a box-to-box run, so I might just have to call it box coffee or something. But I did that one last run at Wembley. Family were there, and I had this gold medal, and it really was the perfect day. And do you know what? I'm so grateful for it because I don't feel like in sport many people get that perfect ending. I don't think hardly anyone does. Sometimes in life we kind of never get that perfect day. So I am just so kind of appreciative of it. And yeah, as I say, the final was the best day of my life. We went out after, and now have a drunken tattoo. I was very brave. I was like, yeah, I'll go first, girls. It's meant to be a lioness. I think it's half dog, half cat. But every time I look at it, I'm like, you know what? That was the day we won the Euros. So yeah, I went first. No one else has got the tattoo, which is great. But I like to think it's unique. It's unique. It's unique. Right, okay, this is my last slide, I promise. Right, so Jill Scott. I didn't actually put that picture in. Jill Scott retires from football. So yeah, retirement. So as I say, I never make plans. Retirement was 2 years ago. kind of didn't know what I wanted to do next. I do have a real passion for coaching. In COVID times, I remember thinking football was obviously taken away from us, and I remember kind of questioning what my purpose was in life, really. I was like, God, I'm not playing football every day. And I read a book which was called Purpose. I'm not trying to sell it, I even got it. And basically, I kind of learned that my purpose was that I just love to help people. I really do just love to help people. And I think that's why I loved football so much, because I think in retirement, it's no secret that when you do the punditry for the men's games and everything else, it's like you get so much stick. It's like, how can you talk about football? You've never played in a men's match, but of course you can talk about football. It's football. I'm so lucky I get to work with Roy Keane, Gary Neville. We speak about tournaments, and the stories are very much the same. So I think when I look back and I do the punditry now, I always think, you know what, I'm going to stand here. I don't mind if I get stick. I've had some of the best days doing the punditry. Italy away, Harry Kane breaks the record. I'm watching the team that I've grew up supporting my whole life. I'm interviewing Harry Kane after the game in this moment. And I'm like, you know what, if one young girl watches me on TV and thinks, you know what, I could do that when I'm older, I'd take the stick every day of my life, because I think just to give a young girl a dream, which probably I didn't have when I was little, it definitely makes it worthwhile. And the comments don't really bother us anyway. So anyway, jungle life. So I retired. I ended up going on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Anybody ever watch that program? Yeah, maybe. Okay. So I got an email saying, do you want to go in the jungle? I thought it was some kind of hoax. But then before I know it, I'm sat in the jungle with Boy George, Chris Moyles, Matt Hancock. Won't be taking any questions at the end of this. So yeah, it was a really random experience, eating goat's testicles. But you know what? I got in there and I remember, I always say about sport, it's not about reaching the highest level. Yeah, I've had the best time of my life. I am so grateful to have pulled that shirt on so many times. But I always say, if you've got young children, if you've got nieces, nephews, I say get them into sport, because what you learn from sport, being part of a team, learning to win and lose, just getting out in the fresh air, I think it's so important for kids nowadays. And I remember going in the jungle and I counted, I was like, oh, there's 11 of us here. And I was like, just thought, this is my football team. And I think I even did a little football team when I was in there. I put Boy George in attacking midfield. I made him captain. But I just think it can I never thought football would equip us for going into a jungle, but it definitely did. So yeah, as I say, just so grateful. I think when I think back to the jungle, there is one scene that sticks out in my head where there's a bike that you have to ride and that pumps the water, which washes the dishes. And I remember washing the dishes. I've got Matt Hancock, Chris Moyles on the bike. I'm like, pedal faster, Matt. And then Boy George is singing Karma Chameleon as we're washing the dishes. And I was like, if I took drugs, would this be like a scene of what it is? So I do have some great memories, and we all made some good friends in there as well. So yeah, back to my last point. So my opening slide was, I'll just take it back for you. Let's have a look. God, I did a lot of slides. Where is it? It's this one. Oh, next one, yeah. So it's not the splash you remember, it's definitely the dive. So in the Euros, we did all of our values and morals as a team. And I think sometimes you get a new manager or whatever, and they all want to do this thing of writing down, what's the company going to stand for? And we did it. And I could see a couple of the younger girls, I was like, they're not listening to this. Like, they're just not interested. And in my spare time, I actually like to do a bit of poetry. So I like to empty my head and just empty my thoughts. So I thought about putting kind of all of our values and team morals into a poem so that the girls could remember it a little bit better. And my last line was, we need to create an environment where everyone can thrive, because it's not the splash you remember, it's definitely the dive. And I think the reason that is so important to me now is the splash will always be that gold medal, always. But the biggest thing for me has definitely been the dive, the journey. No matter what you do, the target that you want to reach, kind of that goal that you need to try and get tomorrow, and you're working frantically to get it, make sure that you enjoy the journey on the way, because sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. But the most important thing for me now is I can be in London ring one of the girls up, get a coffee, and the friendships that I've made along the way definitely mean the most to me. So that's why kind of that sentence will always be the biggest thing for me. So yeah, I think we might have 5 minutes if anyone's got any questions. Am I right? I can't see at the back of the room. But yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions. If not, it's fine. You've had a long day. Anyone? Yes? You can shout.
So you guys must have partied after the Europe.
Yeah, we did.
The most scandalous or funny story.
Oh, well, probably I wouldn't be able to remember it, to be honest. I remember turning up and I said to the girls, I'll book us a hotel room. And I booked this place in London where it was basically 6 bunk beds. And I remember getting to the reception and everyone was looking at us going, is this where the FA put you after winning the Euros? And I was like, no, I did. But I do remember that day when, because we obviously hadn't planned to go on this night out because we didn't know if we were going to win. And I said to a couple of the girls, have you got any clothes for going out? And I was with Lauren Hemp, who was one of the main players of the tournament, young girl, probably about 21 at the time. I said to her, oh, we'll just nip to Zara and get some clothes and come back. So walk out on Oxford Street and everybody was coming up to us. Well done. We watched you yesterday. So yeah, we didn't make it to Zara. I think I ended up going out in my tracksuit. But I think that was the moment when I looked at Lauren and I said to her, your life's going to change from now. You're not going to be able to walk down Oxford Street. So I pushed her into a coffee shop. I paid about £9.50 for a latte. But I was just so happy that that would win. I can't share any more stories. Yeah.
Your challenger mindset slide, if
Yeah.
you go back to that,
Yeah.
there are a bunch of people in this room that
Don't know
they
if I
know
can
what
get
they
it.
want to do, but they have people above them
Yeah.
who are holding them back and saying, show me, prove it to me, challenge me. And so talk to them about how they can be inspired to go challenge the status quo.
Yeah, I think, well, that was definitely one thing throughout my career when I said about people kind of not wanting you, you've got to make them need you. And I think sometimes there might not be that kind of position that you can see that you want to, that you need to fill. But I think you've got to just keep pushing yourself. I don't believe there's nothing. If you have a passion and a love and an energy for something, and yeah, you know what, when I look back on my career, I was probably pretty selfish at times, especially with family life and stuff like that. And I'm sure you get that, but it's because of what I wanted so badly. And I don't think of myself as a selfish person at all. But to get this success, I knew it was going to take absolutely everything. And I think my family now, when they were at the game and stuff like that, they appreciated and everything else. And it's nice to have that time now. But don't let anybody ever put a ceiling on you, ever. Because I really feel, as I said, have no regrets. Just go out there, do what you can do, challenge everything. When somebody tells you that you can't, I used to get told all the time, you're not good enough to play for England. I got selected when I was 14, and then I got dropped for about 4 or 5 years, and I thought that dream was going to be over. But going back to doing the right things every single day, challenge yourself. Don't look left, don't look right. Just stay in your lane. And you know what? Some people are going to get the success probably next week, some will get it next month. For me, it took us 20 years to get that success, really, when I think about it. It probably took us 35 years if I go back to being little. So I would just say, don't put a time scale on it, keep believing, and yeah, don't judge yourself by other people. When you're in a team, you might have somebody who's really good, like say, I had a player who could dribble past 5 players and put a top corner. I knew I could never do that, but I also knew what I brought to the team nobody else could do. So never kind of put your strengths down just because they don't match someone else's. When we all come together, that's when you need the person that's going to dribble. That's when you need the hard worker. That's when you need the person that's going to put a top corner. So really believe in your strength. Yeah, work on your weaknesses, but keep your strength as your super strength, because that's what's going to take you to the next level. Yeah.
You did a great job today.
Thank
you. Make a transition to being a broadcaster and a pundit. Does that scratch the itch, or will you see Jill, the coach, Jill, the manager?
You know what? I was having this conversation before. I'd love to do the coaching. I was taking a young girls team the other day, and I was trying to teach a 6-year-old to check her shoulder before she received the ball. Took us about an hour. She was playing in a game. She checks her shoulder. I'm like, yes, the ball was on the other pitch, but I was so buzzing. I was so buzzing that she'd done it. And I think that helping people and the sport, I think that is kind of what I want to do. But I think at the minute, kind of having no plan, I'm just doing bits of everything. And I think that probably comes from having such a routine, football every single day in my life. I was speaking to a lady before and I said, I wake up, say, on a Monday and I'm like, oh, what am I doing this week? And I am really, really enjoying that. So, yeah, I think when the work dries out, I'll kind of reassess and see what I want to do. But I do love the coaching. Like, I can't watch a football match without going, why are they playing a 4-3-3? They should be playing this. And I can't enjoy watching football because I'm kind of coaching in my head. But I'm just so grateful. I think when you retire, you're just so grateful for the opportunities that you get. So, yeah. But I must say, I think I am closing this event as well. So I better get my notes. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. Do I have to bring them up? Yes, of course, of course. You did say you couldn't find a shirt big enough, so. Oh, go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Right.
Who's actually inside of this?
It's Mike.
Do you want us to sign your shirt?
There we go.
There we go. What we're going to do with this shirt? There you go.
Amazing.
No worries.
So much.
No worries. Are you staying on stage? Because I don't want them to fall off. Right, okay. I think I am closing this, yeah. But I have had a great day. I hope you all have too. As I say, I usually turn up and do my talk, so it's been nice to actually hear everything that's been said. And there's definitely some messages that I'm going to take back, and I'm sure you're going to have some great insights that you can take back to your organisations as well. There's been some amazing brands. I think we've heard from so many different people as well, which has been great. I did write down some stuff. I was like, trust and belief, adding tools to make things better, sharing strategies to help others. I think that's been so important. I said it before, I'm like, people don't have to be in competition. If you share what you do and people just take a little bit of everything, you'll then put together your own formula of what's going to work for you. And I've loved listening to people sharing their secrets to success because I just think it's such an important thing. And then keywords that have come out for me has been making the customers happy. And I think that's the biggest thing. When I was talking to you about football, if the fans like what they see, they're going to come back. And I'm sure that's the same as for use with customers as well. So thank you to all our sponsors, Agilic, AWS and Invoker. We've definitely mentioned them enough today, haven't we? So yeah. And everybody really who's attended Telium's annual DV 2024 event, the Real-Time Revolution, where moments matter. But I've also got a note on here that it doesn't end there because there will be networking drinks from now. I'm sure you all know where the yard is. You might not later, but you know where it is now. Followed by a 3-course gala dinner and entertainment from 7:15 onwards. So yeah, thank you from me. I've had a great time. I hope you have too. And enjoy your evening. Thank you.